Welcome once again to Toy Talk. And now as we're entering into 2020, we're beginning our third year of the show. And as I was beginning this time, I was giving a lot of thought to the future of Toy Talk. And honestly, over the last few months, it's been a little more difficult to get new guests booked. There's been some challenges going on, and I've been trying to decide, where do I go from here? Do I continue on with the show? Is it time to maybe revamp it and make it something different, maybe even changing the entire name? Is it time to just end it? And so I put these questions out there on social media, on Facebook and some other pages, to kind of get an idea of what you guys, the viewers, were thinking. And first off, I got a lot of positive response about people wanting Toy Talk to continue, and that will be happening. I do want you to know that. And I also got a lot of suggestions as to some changes we could make toward the show. And a lot of them are excellent and will be used in the future. However, two really stood out to me. And they were two by past guests. One by Frank Rich, who you all remember from the Star Wars Autograph News episode, and the other from Frank Sarchia, who was on this past Halloween and who I've credited many times as the man who got me started into collecting toys. Now, what Frank said was the way he views Toy Talk is it's not necessarily about toys so much as it is about nostalgia. And I said, yes, that is absolutely correct. If you remember what I said in the very first episode, I want this show to be as much about joy as it is about toys. My goal from day one has never been to show off a toy collection or to have my guests show off what they have. The goal has always been to set positive neurocognitive associations. Now, a neurocognitive association is when you see something or you hear something or smell it or touch it, and it brings you back to someplace. It triggers a memory. And that's what I've wanted to do with Toy Talk, is trigger happy memories. I've said many times that life can be difficult. There's bills and children and sicknesses. There's different things that go on in life that are struggles. They're not easy to deal with. And the way I see it is, what I want to do is give you a few minutes, even a day, where you're not thinking about those problems. A time when you can just sit back, relax, and enjoy, have a good time. That's always been the goal of the show. And of course, I've also said it's not just about toys. It's all kinds of pop culture items. We've talked about comic books. We've talked about movies. Again, we talked about Star Wars autographs. And we're going to continue on this same vein. We'll have episodes that are about toys and episodes that are about other types of pop culture. And I hope everyone's going to continue to enjoy the show in that way. Now, the second thing that Frank Sarchia suggested is that, Jack, I really don't think you need a guest on every single episode. You could take episodes where you focus on a single toy line and use kind of clips about it, talk about the history of the toy line, not just showing toys, but talking about how that toy came to be and what that toy has done over time to impact people, what it's done as a business, what it's done as an impact in the world. A lot of toys have done that. How many people could sit down 40 years later and still sing the Weebles Wobble, but they don't fall down because it gets stuck in your head? And what I was thinking about for this particular episode, again, as the Weebles got into my mind, was, one of the great things for children of the 70s and 80s was that we had some amazing commercials, some that stick out in your mind all these years later. And I think of how do you spell relief? R-O-L-A-I-D-S. And there's plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. Or we can remember Mr. Whipple squeezing the Charmin. And I'm going to take this episode and we're going to talk about some of these classic commercials that we grew up with, because I really believe they're going to trigger positive memories to people, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Now, right off the bat, what really sticks out into my mind the most from the 70s and 80s as a child and a teenager, there was one restaurant that just continually had excellent commercials across the board. There wasn't one commercial that stood out, but every one of them as a group just, came together and made us want to enjoy their product. Let's go ahead and take a look at this commercial.
Who's the McFriendliest fellow in town? Who's our McFavorite hamburger clown? Whose smile is sunniest? Whose friends are funniest? Ronald McDonald. Who's the smartest McClown we know? Let's follow and see where he'll go. Whose shakes are nummiest? Whose food is yummiest? Ronald. Ronald McDonald.
McDonald's, man. McDonald's dominated throughout the 70s and 80s and still to this day, and it's not because of their food. You know, they had these great commercials. They geared everything toward children. You had the bright red, the bright yellow. You had all these characters like Grimace and Hamburglar and Ronald himself, Mayor McCheese. And man, we loved these commercials, and it'd make us want to tell our parents, take us out to McDonald's, we gotta go. Although McDonald's has always dominated in the fast food burger market, there's two other restaurants that have always been kind of a secondary challenge to them: Burger King and Wendy's. Now, neither one has ever really caught up to McDonald's, and neither one has ever had the overall commercial success that McDonald's has had. However, there was a period in the 1980s where Wendy's came on the scene strong with a major commercial that impacted the 80s. Let's take a look at that.
It certainly is a big bun.
It's a very big bun.
Big fluffy bun.
It's a very big fluffy bun.
Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
Where's the beef?
At Wendy's, we serve a hamburger we modestly call a single. And Wendy's single has more beef than the Whopper or Big Mac. At Wendy's, you get more beef and less bun.
Hey, where's the beef? I don't think there's anybody back there.
You want something better. You're Wendy's kind of people.
Where's the beef? Clara Peller. Where's the beef was everywhere in the early to mid 80s. It was on t-shirts. You heard it on shows. Everybody was walking around saying, where's the beef? Where's the beef? Where's the beef? And I'm telling you, it was a great commercial. I'd love to see it come back personally. But it's not just restaurant chains that brought us some great food commercials. There was a lot of companies that had their food in supermarkets in different areas that got our attention and again had us singing along with jingles like the Weebles did, like this commercial right here.
Class attention. Forward march. Oh, I'd love to be an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I truly like to be. 'Cause if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, everyone would be in love with me.
A big parade is so inspiring.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I never want to be. 'Cause if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, there would soon be nothing left of me. Oh, I love to be an
Oscar Mayer wieners are all meat, all good meat. Rich and complete meat protein, mildly seasoned to bring out all the good meat flavor.
Everyone would be in love with me.
Next week, you handle just the refreshments, Freddie.
Oh, I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener. If you were a child in the 1970s or 80s, you have sang this song on multiple occasions. And how often is it that every once in a while, and you're lucky enough to be on the road and see the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile go by, man, that's something you're talking about for the rest of your life. Oscar Mayer had a great commercial in this. Now, but it wasn't just the bright, flashy commercials of McDonald's. It wasn't the comedy of Wendy's, and it wasn't even necessarily just the jingles of Oscar Mayer that made different food commercials stand out, because Life Cereal did a great job with a very serious, straightforward commercial that everybody loved. Let's take a look at that.
What's this stuff? Some cereal. It's supposed to be good for you. I'm not going to try it. Let's get Mikey. Yeah. He won't eat it. He hates everything. He likes it. Hey, Mikey.
Regular, cinnamon, and raisin Life. Nutritious, delicious.
Now, Life Cereal and Fisher-Price Toys offer rebates of up to $150 on 40 Fisher-Price toys. Details on specially marked Life Cereal packages.
Mikey, come on. Mikey liked it. Mikey didn't like anything, but he liked Life Cereal. It didn't matter that it didn't have sugar like Frosted Flakes. It didn't have a tiger saying they're great. It didn't have little marshmallow flowers, or, it didn't have the Lucky Charms stuff, or Cookie Crisp, or any of the other things. Just a straight, what they called healthy cereal. And Mikey got us all to want to eat it. Mikey was the bomb. All right, but you know, it wasn't even just food, of course. I am going to stick a little bit onto the kind of area of foods that we eat right now, but I'm going to shift a little bit into drinks. And when it comes to soda, there has always been one titan. Kind of like how McDonald's has always dominated fast food, Coca-Cola has always dominated soft drinks. There's been Pepsi, there's been RC Cola, but Coke always came out on top, and Coke had some great classic commercials, from Have a Coke and a Smile to this one right here.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love. Grow apple trees and honey bees and snow white turtle doves. I'd like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Perfect harmony, perfect harmony. I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. That's the real thing. I'd like to teach the world to sing. In perfect harmony, perfectly. And I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company. It's the real thing. What the world wants today is the real thing. What the world wants today is the real thing.
I'd like to buy the world a Coke. This was a great commercial that really was perfect for that time in history. You know, there were civil rights movements going on. Racism was still rampant, but the world was starting to change, and Coke saw that and focused on it, and they had this massive, huge commercial of people from all different backgrounds and ethnicities joining together to sing how they'd like to make the world a better place. And man, I really think that was something that brought Coke to a whole new level. It wasn't just a drink, it was something that did make you smile.
Coke and a smile, turns on the sun, makes me feel good, so refreshing, makes me feel nice. Have a Coke and a smile, that's the way it should be. And I like to see the whole world smiling with me. Coca-Cola has life, have a Coke and a smile.
If you were watching commercials as a child in the 70s and 80s, there generally was one time when you were watching them, and that was Saturday morning. Saturday morning cartoons dominated for children of the 70s and 80s. You got to understand, at this time, cable was still very much in its infancy. Most people didn't even own or know what a VCR was until the early to mid 80s. And so if you wanted to watch cartoons, especially new cartoons, Saturday morning was the time to do it. We all woke up, we got in front of that TV with our bowl of Life cereal or whatever we were having, and we sat there and watched cartoon after cartoon after cartoon. And companies were very brilliant. They realized that children were going to be watching, and they geared commercials directly toward those children. And one candy company that didn't have the best product did a great job of coming up with some commercials that would appeal to children. And that was Tootsie Roll. Let's take a look at this one.
The world looks mighty good to me, 'cause Tootsie Roll's a roll I see. Whatever it is I think I see becomes a Tootsie Roll to me. Tootsie Roll, how I want your chocolatey chew. Tootsie Roll, I think I'm in love with you. Whatever it is I think I see becomes a Tootsie Roll to me.
The world looks mighty good to me. A Tootsie Roll is all I see. And that wasn't even their only commercial. They also had that, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll pop? You know, with the wise old owl going, a one, a two, a three, three. You know, no one ever knew how many licks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Roll pop. But we all wanted to know, so we had to run out and buy Tootsie Pops and rot our teeth in the process. No, it was a great commercial. It was a strategy where this wasn't Hershey or Reese's Peanut Butter Cups or Snickers. It was a little piece of chocolate flavored sugar, and they had everybody wanting to buy it with these wonderful commercials. And now I want to take a look at a commercial talking about candy that goes a little further back than the other ones in this episode. This one takes us back to the 1950s. Let's take a look at this.
Once upon a time there was an engineer.
Choo-choo Charlie was his name, we hear.
He had an engine and he sure had fun. He's good and plenty candy to make his train run.
Charlie says, love my good and plenty. Charlie says, really rings the bell. Charlie says, love my good and plenty. Don't know any other candy that I love so well.
Choo Choo Charlie. Like Tootsie Roll, Choo Choo Charlie, it was good and plenty candy. Good and Plenty wasn't the candy bar that everybody wanted, but when you saw Choo Choo Charlie and his train going up and down over the tracks and you heard that little jingle of once upon a time he was an engineer, Choo Choo Charlie was his name, you hear, it stuck in your head. And I'm singing it 70 years later as we're now into 2020. Now, the other great thing about Saturday morning commercials was that the network saw that there was so much focus on candy and unhealthy things. And so they started making these PSA type commercials. And they geared them toward teaching children just to learn things in general, but specifically in some of these, how to eat healthier, how to make better choices. Like this commercial right here.
Bang, bang, bang! Oh, howdy, partner. Time for timer. Do you ever get that hungry feeling after school? Boy, I do. I'm so hungry, I could eat a wagon wheel. When I'm slow on the draw and I need something to chaw, I hanker for a hunk of cheese. When my 10-gallon hat's a feeling 5 gallons flat, I got something planned, which is little cheese sandwiches. Come on! Here's a great little snack to tide you over till dinner. If you want something delicious and nutritious, cheese is a super snack. Look, a wagon wheel. When my get up and go has got up and went, I hanker for a hunk of cheese. When I'm dancing, I hold down and my boots kind of slow down, or anytime I'm weak in the knees. I hanker for a hunk of, a slab or slice of chunk of, a snacker is a winner, and yet won't spoil my dinner. I hanker for a hunk of cheese. Yahoo!
I hanker for a hunk of cheese. How many of you made a wagon wheel with the crackers and the cheese and you rolled it out? I mean, just because you saw it in the commercial and it gave you the ideas. I remember getting the toothpicks and sticking, there was another commercial where it showed like pineapples and different things and you'd stick them together to look like a wheel, and you could use celery and put peanut butter in it and make it look like a train. There were so many of them. But this one that I want to look at now was not really one that people mention a lot nowadays, all these years later, but it was always my favorite. Let's take a look at this.
They're doing push-ups in Peoria. They're jogging in L.A. They're exercising everything in lots of crazy ways. But take it from the chopper. Hey, the chopper, yeah, that's me. If you want to have great choppers, exercise your teeth. Exercise those choppers, really chew, chew, chew. Exercise those choppers on some good hard food. Your molars grind, your canines tear, incisors bite right through. So exercise those choppers on some good hard food. Pumpernickel, carrot sticks, crunchy fruits and nuts. Things you really have to chew will make your choppers tough. So take it from the chopper, 'cause choppers know it's true. Exercise is great, but exercise your choppers too. Hey, chopper, how about running a few laps with us? Hey, later, man. I'm eating a celery stick. This is hard exercise.
Chopper. You know, I always loved the 50s leather-clad guy, you know, the fawns, the and Chopper was awesome. And he's up there telling you to eat healthy, that it's good for your choppers, it's good for your teeth. And I just absolutely loved those commercials. They blew me away. I thought they were the coolest thing. You know, we had things like Schoolhouse Rock that would teach us about how to make a bill or what a conjunction was. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? And all these other things like this. But another thing that a lot of the networks figured out is if they could get characters from shows we loved, whether it be the Fonz from television or characters from movies, which were huge at the time, like Star Wars, they could get children to listen and they could teach them good concepts or teach them how to do things right or how to be healthy, just like what was done in this commercial here.
Otto? Where are you? Otto? Otto? Artu, you're on fire! R2-D2, you found a cigarette. Well, I don't think smoking is grown up at all. Because it's very dangerous. Smoking does dreadful things to your lungs and is very bad for your heart. Well, I know I don't have one, but humans do, and I think we should set a good example. Well done, R2. Oh, hello. You know smoking is bad for your health, and it isn't grown up at all. So please, don't smoke.
How many of you remember that? Watching R2-D2 and C-3PO telling you not to smoke. You know, R2 with his little antenna thing holding the cigarette, and C-3PO telling you how bad it was for you, giving that information of how bad it was for your lungs and things, and it got children to listen. Now, all these commercials have been great, and I hope you guys have had a great time watching them. I know I've had a great time putting them together and talking about them, but this is Toy Talk. Now, of course, I'm not going to let you get away without seeing a couple of toy commercials. Now, this first one is not a specific toy, but a toy line that we all love.
I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. They got a million toys and Toys R Us that I can play with. Bet you don't know what I want, Jeffrey.
You want Atari's 2600 video game system, only $48.84 at Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Only $29.97 for Activision's Pitfall 2 cartridge. Only $29.97 for the Decathlon cartridge, and just $29.97 for the Space Shuttle cartridge.
More games, more toys. Oh, boy! I want to be a Toys R Us kid.
Toys R Us. Man, what can you say? Rest in peace. Little over a year now, it's gone. There's been rumors of stores coming back, but in the 70s and 80s, if you wanted toys, Toys R Us was the place to go. This was before you went online and did your shopping there. You went in and it was just rows and rows of toys, as high as you could see, down to your feet, stuffed in the aisles. If you wanted a toy, Toys R Us was the place to go. And Jeffrey Giraffe, they had that great spokesperson. I mean, they had amazing commercials. And I want to go ahead and close out this show by looking at one last toy commercial. Now, what I wanted to do here was I stopped and thought, what would I consider the best toy commercial ever made? Now, I'm not talking toy lines. I'm not saying like He-Man had great commercials and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles over the years or Star Wars. They all had that. And I'm not even talking about the best toy of all time. I'm talking about what was the best toy commercial. And only two really stuck out of my mind. The first I've mentioned earlier, you know, the whole Weebles wobble but they don't fall down. I thought about using that, but in my mind, one just slightly beats that out. So let's take a look at this all-time classic toy commercial.
Slinky toys are fun toys. What walks downstairs alone or in pairs and makes a slinkety sound? A spring, a marvelous thing. Everyone knows it's Slinky. It gives a big lift when wrapped as a gift. A very likable toy. It's falling in place, brings smiles to your face. Something kids can enjoy. It's Slinky, it's Slinky. For fun, it's a wonderful toy. It's Slinky, it's Slinky. It's fun for a girl and a boy. And Slinky mobiles with big slinky wheels and pistons that move as you go. It makes a great sound when you pull it around. The driver's an old-timey fellow. A slinky dog, a slinky train, many more wonderful toys. You tug the string, they do their thing. They're great for girls and boys. They're Slinkies, really wonderful toys. They're Slinkies, they're fun for girls and boys. Slinky, Slinky Dog, Slinky Mobile, all Slinky toys sold separately by James Industries.
Slinky, come on. It walks downstairs and I don't even remember all the words, but you know, it goes down. And I remember for years having that Slinky and getting at the top of your stairs and trying to make it go all the way down. And it usually got 2 or 3 steps down and then it would just kind of either stop or tumble to the bottom and stop rolling. But Slinky, all these years later, you know, 50, 60 years later, everyone still can hear the Slinky song, even if they don't have the exact words. And it's penetrated culture so much. I mean, from children today still know the song, adults still know the song. It's even been parodied in things like Ren and Stimpy, you know, with it's with log, it's big, it's heavy, it's wood. But to me, Slinky is the ultimate toy commercial. I hope you all have enjoyed this look back at some of the nostalgic commercials from the 70s and 80s. I've had a great time doing it, and I'll see you again next month on Toy Talk.